Right, I think everyone's in. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our latest ASP webinar, again on optimization. We're back, and today we're really talking about trying to drive traffic and conversions all year round. I've been involved in the events industry for a while now and fully appreciate that we have not the smoothest line of website traffic, nice and peaking all the way up to the event and then dropping off sharply afterwards. I've been in SEO for a long time, and that's not particularly normal for a website. For a website, normally you'd want to have traffic all the way around the year and building year on year. So when I started working in events, it was fairly new to me to see these sort of traffic patterns in which you have. So hopefully working both in the events industry for quite a while and having experience outside, I've got some fairly good experience in how we can move things forward so you guys can have this elusive all year round traffic. So I'm going to talk through a few things today. Hopefully that's going to be useful. If you have any questions or comments, etc., please fire them into the chat and we can answer those as we go through. Doesn't have to wait until the end. It can be nice and it can be nice and interactive. So actually, I think we just have a question coming through. I can't see that for a sec, so I'll just crack on. So I fully understand with events that we have a cycle in which obviously we have the event, we have the nice lead up to the event in which we're looking at our exhibitor promotion. We have got our VizProm and all of the various promotion that we have leading up to it. Obviously, the amount of time in which we have VizProm and XProm does depend on the actual event, but typically we find with clients it's around 3 months. And it's during that period we get a huge increase in traffic, which typically peaks around the event itself. And then after the event, we normally have a nice significant drop off. I see lots of graphs in which we have the nice rise up to the event and then a real drop off, and traffic often stays very, very low until that interest to the event for the next year then starts growing again. So we have this very typical traffic cycle that I see again and again. And certainly when I chat with events teams and marketing teams, people often say, well, how can we get traffic all year round? Because it's fairly stressful in terms of, when we're looking to drive ticket sales and registrations in this final 3 months. So how can we get it all the year round? And that's very much what we're going to talk about today. First top tip, just while we're on this screen, is one of the culprits and one of the reasons why events often lose a lot of traffic, and especially from organic traffic, is because they delete a lot of content after the last year's event. People often treat their website a bit like the actual event itself, in which the event finishes, everyone tidies up, goes home, puts everything away, and has a good old clear up. And that's often what we find is the case with the website, in which last year's content is cleared up, tidied away, and a lot of it has great value, whether it be speakers, whether it be exhibitors, whether it be things that exhibitors are uploaded. So if a lot of that stuff is deleted, we can have a lot of great value, which was driving organic traffic, and that's gone. So just a top tip at this stage, don't just delete that stuff. Drop us a line, see what to do with it. It's often better to archive it, and when I say archive, it's still available to see on the internet, but it's like last year's speakers or last year's exhibitors, so it's still there, and there's no confusion that it's there for this year, but they're still potentially driving traffic. So what is this elusive 365 traffic? Well, in today's webinar, what we're really going to be focusing on is organic traffic. So we're talking about from Google, people typing searches into the search engine, not paid. This is organic, and this is for particular and relevant search terms to your event. So these don't exclude pay-per-click, like I mentioned, LinkedIn ads, This doesn't include social media, email. What we're going to be talking about today will help all of these other channels, but I'm very much focusing on Google organic search, as well as getting the website to increase conversions as well. Now, what's interesting is that there's actually a side bonus to doing this, in that if you optimize your website so you do get this elusive 365 traffic from Google, it will actually help PPC performance too. Because if your website is well optimized with lots of different keywords and Google understands your audience and the sorts of words in which drive people to your website naturally, then it has a better understanding when you're bidding for PPC keywords, and it can actually make your PPC campaigns more effective. So that shouldn't be underestimated, because PPC can obviously be expensive. So therefore, this investment that you may put into the organic traffic for the website, it has a payoff in terms of helping to also reduce PPC costs and the effectiveness of that. And it's not just costs, it's the effectiveness of it, it's the targeting, it's just being more efficient in what you're doing. So 365 traffic seems like a wonderful thing to have, but the first question which I always like to ask a website in many ways, and when I say ask a website, when I look at it and sort of focus on it, is does that website actually deserve, and you can ask this of your own websites too, does it actually deserve to get traffic all the way year round? Because if you actually think about it, or certainly most of the events that we end up working on, they have very much a focus for the event, for the time of year, overridingly the brand name of what it's called. So therefore, if you think about it, if you're just focusing on that, as far as Google is concerned and as far as organic traffic is concerned, it's just going to mirror your the rest of your marketing. And that as email goes out, as social goes out, more and more people are going to be typing in your brand name. Therefore, the organic search for your brand will mirror what's happening on with your other campaigns. But then the second that those other campaigns stop, people stop searching for your brand, and therefore the organic traffic will drop off. So does your website at this stage deserve to get more traffic? Well, if all you're doing is currently focusing on your brand name and maybe closely related topics or words to that, then it probably doesn't, unfortunately. So this is where a kind of a mindset has to change, and in which the website needs to shift from very much a brand name focus into the actual topics in which your event covers. So what's the overriding topic for your event? For example, are you covering AI? What are the subtopics for your event that you may be focusing on too? Are you talking machine learning? Are you talking robotics, and all the other potential subtopics in which your industry may be interested in? So there needs to be a real shift in focus away from just your brand to then thinking of the website as to a collection of key topics which are of interest to your industry. And the thing is, then once you've identified those topics, you can then start thinking about what content you add onto the pages, what you add onto the homepage. If you have a number of subtopics, do you then start adding subtopic pages, which all of them specifically address these pages? These pages and splitting an event down, it surely isn't just for Google, it's for people. I mean, just for a second, imagine you're going on to an e-commerce website, you're looking for a pair of shoes. It's let's say it's John Lewis. That's very simply categorized down into all of the different product types and product categories, in which you're able to then browse those and see which ones you're looking for and subcategories, etc. And obviously an event isn't as complex as a e-commerce like John Lewis, but it's the same principle, in which what you want to do is organize your content into different topics in which people can then browse which ones they're interested in. So they might only be interested in, let's say, the machine learning side, using my AI event example, or maybe one of the other sort of subtopics too, and maybe they're not interested in the others. Maybe AI, they're bored of that term because everyone's talking about it and they're thinking, oh, that's very nice, but I'm more techie. Specifically, how are you going to address my needs? And that's where breaking this website down by keywords into topics is so important. But how does this relate to 365 traffic? Well, if you start to think about keywords and you start to think about topics, these are things that people could be typing in throughout the year. Obviously, we spoke before about your brand, and that search for that's going to mirror the other marketing you're doing. But if someone's looking for an AI event, that could be most times of the year, and that's no longer dependent upon all of the other marketing in which you're doing. So all of these other kind of non-branded terms, we're now talking about things which have interest throughout the year. And so this is why it's so important to start identifying these and putting these topics and topic pages clearly identified on your website, so you can start attracting these searches in addition to your actual brand searches. So I've kind of jumped ahead of myself slightly when I was chatting, but here is an example of, as I say, my example conference, which is about AI, and which I'm starting to now think about the key terms in which we could be targeting. So we have the primary being we're an AI conference, and then we have identified the particular target market that we have, which are developers, where they're looking for machine learning, deep learning, and natural language processing. So all of these sort of subtopics are of great interest to our potential audience, and so therefore we need to really start thinking about how this is presented onto the website. Obviously, we're not all having AI conferences, so exactly the same thing needs to happen with your site. So now start to think about what is your primary term, and which is sort of the overarching term of your event, and now start thinking about some of those subtopics. I mean, let's not also forget that with any website, what we're looking to do is to meet a visitor's needs. So if I am really into machine learning, and that's the hub of my career and what I do, that's what I'm going to be looking for. So if I do find an AI conference and I don't find anything specific about machine learning, I might think that it's far too general and not really for me. Whereas if we do present this particular topic page, in which maybe that page has got experts on there, it's got exhibitors there, maybe has workshops, things that are happening like that, you're really starting to address my needs. And you might be thinking, am I just talking about keywords here? Well, not at all. We're now talking about conversion, aren't we? Because if you're addressing my needs, I'm now seeing that there are people who are going to be talking at this event, which I'm really interested in coming to hear, then I'm much more likely to convert than if I'd just gone to a general AI conference website. So how you actually do this is the principle is simple. So your homepage in this example, we would target the keyword AI conference. Separately, we've done some research to find there's actually people searching for that in Google, so we already know that. As an aside, if you want to know how to do keyword research, we do have other webinars that address that in a lot more detail, and we've got blog posts on our website too. So please just go to our website, check out the Learning Hub, and we have other webinars there which talk in detail of how to find the number of searches for example, AI conference or any subtopics that you may have too. But in this example, we know for our homepage now, we're going to target AI conference is going to be the keyword that we're going to target there. And we're going to set up two subtopic pages, one for machine learning and one for natural language processing. So we're starting now to define actual things that need to go onto the website. Now let's just step back a second. So when you first, let's say I'm interested in AI conference, obviously the first thing I'm going to do is go onto the internet, go onto Google, type something in and see the results in which I get. And the results that you get are defined by what's called your page title, which is in the SEO settings within Show Off. And then we have the meta description. Just for anyone who doesn't know, I'll just quickly show you just to define this a bit more. So this here is the page title, and this here is the meta description. So these are defined by you within the settings, and they're incredibly powerful. because not only do they help Google rank your page and you actually get found within these search results, they're also what people read and what people see, and can have a big impact of whether people click on this or if they don't. So the first part of conversion is actually getting people to your website in the first place. And so therefore the page title and the meta description are really, really important. They're actually highly, people don't realize what an impact they can have, both in terms of SEO and getting people to the page, as well as actually getting people from once they see the ranking position here in Google to actually then clicking through to your page too. So I've just done an example here of a bit of a before and after, and I've in no way exaggerated how some of our page titles are before and after we see them. So in this example, let's call our event AI Future. That's what we're going to call our example event. And so therefore, when we first saw it, it's got this title here, AI Future homepage. We see that quite a lot. So if you have homepage, it's still in your page title. Remember that will actually appear here. Doesn't look particularly professional, so I'd immediately go and take that out if you have homepage in your page title. So let's say the result we type in and we see AI Future homepage, and then the meta description we see industry leaders shaping the future, networking opportunities. Doesn't really tell us very much, does it? I mean, I'm interested in really forwarding my career, meeting people, learning from speakers, and also don't really know what this AI event is about. Whereas you could, for example, have a page title such as UK's Top AI Conference for Developers 2025, AI Future. So with this, we've targeted the keyword AI conference, but now we're also going that step further and saying who it's for. So this particular conference is very much aimed at developers. So we're selling people that. So therefore, if I'm a CEO or someone else, it might not be relevant to me. So therefore, we're not driving irrelevant people to the website. So there's certainly no harm in being specific in terms of the people who you want to go to your website. We then have meta description. And just as a reminder, that's this down here. And people read that and has quite an impact on whether people will click on this result or not. So here, discover cutting edge AI insights at Excel London, and the date, join industry experts, thought leaders at the UK's top AI developer event, register today. So if we just unpick this, and it's certainly worth spending some time thinking about at least the first one, which can then be sort of slightly modified for your other pages, in which we have AI insights. We've got where it is, we've got what date it is, because obviously people need to know that. We need to have some benefits as why should I come to your event? Industry leaders, thought leaders. It's the top AI event, and it's very much a developer event. And last but by no means least, and often very much underestimated, is an actual call to action, such as register today. It's funny how the mind works, and that if you tell people to do things within written word, often people just follow it. So it says register today, and it genuinely makes it more likely that people are actually going to click on this result within Google here. Because the thing is, people in the know will, I just want to register, can I go on and do that? So you're making it sure that they can. But on the other hand, if you can't register today, that can be a slight jolt in their customer journey. So if we're not at that stage yet, register your interest, sign up to our newsletter, whatever your call to action is, but it needs to be a smooth flow and it's consistent. So if you're saying register here, we need to be able to register on the actual website. So, excuse me. So targeting the right keywords genuinely also does improve conversions. So we've used examples of keywords such as AI, such as machine learning, and the examples in which we spoke about, they're quite specific. So therefore, if I'm typing in, for example, machine learning event, it's fairly specific as the type of thing that I want to go to, the type of website I want to go to. So if you see the the result in Google. You then click on a page which is very much about a machine learning event. You then include more information, which kind of gives me what I would expect to see in an event like that, which is going to show me the value the event has. Surely the conversions are going to follow. Compared with if I put a machine learning event, I end up at some general AI event type, and it doesn't tell me if you do anything about machine learning, the chances of me converting is an awful lot less. So actually knowing your keywords, defining content around those, providing really great pages with good information on them, which is good for SEO, is genuinely also really good for conversions because it's really giving people what they want. We've spoken about the title. We've spoken about the meta description. The next thing that is really important on a page, believe it or not, is your main heading. And it's so often I go on to, especially onto home pages, and it's not actually clear immediately what the event actually is about. So there might be, for example, a relatively, aspirational headline. I mean, I've put the one here, inspiring the future. And we see headlines like this quite regularly, in which they are fantastic and they do inspire, but they don't really tell you what the event is about. So this not only is this not great for Google and for optimizing the page, it's also not great for conversions because we've all got very short attention spans. We've gone onto Google, we've done our search, we've clicked onto the page, and it says inspiring the future. And at this point, I'm not entirely sure what this website is actually about. Inspiring the future, regarding what? There could be a million and one things. Instead, why don't we have something like the UK's largest AI event for developers? Now, often we get resistance to this because it hardly feels imaginative in terms of a main heading. But the thing is that a lot of people may not know your event, especially the new people we're hoping to drive, in which sometimes you just need to do what it says on the tin, and this will help so people immediately know they're in the right place, or if they're in the wrong place. So they're not browsing around the site and they're getting frustrated. So people know they're in the right place. They know that this is an AI event for developers and not for other people. And Google can see this and people can see this. And you're already at now getting that buy-in for the person. So just think of the journey we've had so far. Someone's typed in a AI conference. They've seen the correct result in Google with lots of information, as we spoke about before. And now we've come onto the homepage and we have this main heading, and it's reinforcing that we are definitely in the right place. So now we know we're in the right place. We know it's an AI conference. Now, when you're actually onto the website, this is where we have the next job of organizing all of the content to make sure that we understand it and can easily find the particular bits that we're interested in finding. So we spoke about before about subdividing your event into subtopics, and this does work really well also for conversions in that you can do it relatively easily. For example, in your main menu, you can now start to put in, you may maybe have topics or show areas or themes. There's all sorts of things that people call these kind of sub areas of their event, but you can have this in the main menu and start to link to these. Now, the main menu, people, because they're not used to doing this, sometimes say, well, can we put them in the footer or can we put them to the right? Well, in reality, they're quite important, these, and we want them to perform well in search, and we want people to find them as well. So if they're to the left and near the top, then they're going to perform better. People are going to find them better. So that's ideally where we would have them. So you have your main menu with your topics and your drop down, and then list all of your main topics down here. In addition to that, if you have particularly important topics in which you're covering this year, you can also cover this in the homepage with clear content boxes, in which we can then feature, a little bit about what's going to be happening there, and then be able to click through to that particular page. And again, remember, this is not just for Google. This is very much for the visitor, so they can quite easily browse around all of the different, really what your event is about. and all the expertise that you're going to be having on show. So by having this kind of information on the homepage, very much is catering for the visitor and adding great value. And you have to remember that when you're engaging the visitor and giving them what they want to read about and what they want to see, they're more likely to convert. And so it all cycles together. Okay, so some top tips at this stage. We want to identify some key subtopics. So like I mentioned before, we have, if you want to delve into the actual keyword research to find the number of searches for that, we have blog posts and other webinars on that if you go onto our website. But that will help you determine those key subtopics. So for example, if you're not sure of calling a thing one thing or calling it something else, if one has more searches in Google, let's go for that one instead of the one that has fewer. And so it can inform your kind of naming convention, you know, what you call things. And then once you have your subtopics defined, you can then have the ability to start to create content. And this is where you do start to get this year-round engagement. So we start to create pages which target this content, and which will have great value about, you know, themes that have been discussed, speakers you have, experts within that area, exhibitors you may have, demonstrations you may have going on, as well as you may have featured blog posts that relate to those topics as well. And we're going to come on to a little bit about that in a second. But these pages should remain live all the time. They can drive traffic all the time. And from the work that we've done with clients doing exactly what I've described, we have seen remarkable increases in organic traffic, and for very specific non-branded terms such as these topics. And it's literally by adding these topic pages. It does slightly depend on how competitive your industry is. If it's very competitive, we might need to do stuff on top of adding those topic pages. But in less competitive industries, we have seen very, very good increases simply by dividing the show down into topics, and then clearly defining those and writing great content onto those. One of the objections we sometimes have is, you know, people are not quite sure what to put on the pages because people are thinking about topics for next year, because people always do, but maybe next year's speakers haven't been announced or exhibitors haven't been. We're not quite sure what workshops are happening or exactly what's going on. Well, if you had an event last year, what you can do is talk about the themes that were discussed last year, speakers you had last year. You can talk about what you're hoping to happen this year. So it doesn't have to, if you don't have next year's stuff organized yet or announced yet, that's not a problem, and it shouldn't stop you creating these pages. In actual fact, these pages are probably only going to be in date for a relatively short period of time. You know, you've got your speakers announced, in which you can still put a widget on the page. You're going to have your exhibitors announced, but then it's going to be the events happened, and then it's going to be last year's stuff. So these pages will need to be updated relatively regularly just to account for, you know, the show cycle, but they should remain live all the time. And whether it's talking about themes from last year, what you expect to happen next year, there should always be great value content onto those pages. And if you do that, you will get all year round engagement, literally just from potentially just a few topic pages. Now, whilst that may sound like a lot of work, it doesn't necessarily have to be. We have amazing tools like ChatGPT now, which, yes, if you're writing stuff from scratch and you just ask it to write it, it can be a bit sketchy. But if you're putting in existing page content and you're asking it to update it from, you know, present tense to past tense, or just a few dates changes, etc., it can really take the legwork out of content changes which in the past would have taken a long time. So don't forget tools like that, because that can make the thought of these topic pages, actually it makes them not too difficult to keep updated. So topic pages are one thing, and they do work really well, and they are like I mentioned, they're like your category pages. If you go onto an e-commerce site like on John Lewis, you know, all the forms are different categories and people can browse through them. They're really fantastic. And to be honest, they kind of form part of the sort of foundation for the website, kind of the base level of how it should be. But unless you are in a very, very uncompetitive niche, they probably won't do everything that you need, and they certainly won't help you hit the stars in terms of what you could achieve with the site. And the big thing that most events that we talk to are sitting on but don't really use is the actual content of which you have at the event. The speakers, you have workshops, you have seminars, discussions, interviews, all sorts of things we see, happening at events, in which is incredible content, and for most people who are going, that's kind of one of the primary reasons often for why they go to the event in the first place. And some of the content that's being produced there can be really, really fantastic, and for two reasons. Obviously, there's the actual content, but then there's also it's who is presenting, and who is talking, and who is giving credibility to the content that's being delivered. So with search, there's a number of challenges in which your website has to overcome. And in the other industries in which I've worked, those challenges are often fairly major, in that you're looking to get content, and you're also looking to get authority with kind of people, sort of giving credibility to what's being written. But at an event, you have both. Have this content where people are talking, and you have industry leaders who are giving the presentations. And I can't tell you how much an advantage that is for an event website, in terms that if that content is put onto your website, and the person who's given the presentation is allied to that content, the opportunity for that to perform well is fantastic, and it really does work very, very well. So you really have, and you really are sitting on absolute gold when it comes to content for the website. So the topic pages are the step one, but then the real thing which enhances this is step two, is starting to actually get onto page some of the content in which you have at the event. So just an example I put down here, let's say we had at our example website, we had a keynote on AI ethics. This could be transcribed and turned into an article and optimized for AI ethics challenges 2025, for example. And this could be an article in itself, which could drive lots of traffic to your website, irrespective of what part of the event cycle in which you're in. 2 seconds, I'm just going to double check if we have any questions. Question, fantastic. If you are repurposing content from last year's event, how much do you need to change it to avoid being penalized for duplicate content? Well, if you have a page and you have content on there, so long as that page and the URL, as long as that's not replicated somewhere else, then that's absolutely fine. I'm assuming here that you're thinking you may have two pages. You have last year's a copy of it and this year's. Well, if you have two versions of it, you have to tell Google which is the original. And what you do in that particular example, there's in the SEO settings, you have something called a canonical URL. And what you do in the old content, you go into the SEO settings and put in what is the new URL for that new content, and that's how you deal with that. So the two pages are still there, but in the old content, put in this canonical URL pointing to the new one, and that means you won't get done for duplicate content. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about event content. I think it's difficult to explain how much of an opportunity this is, and one of the objections we often get is, well, recording it's quite expensive. Well, video recording is certainly expensive, and I can fully understand that. Audio recording could be much, much cheaper because the equipment's already there, and therefore just getting that recorded is, and especially if you don't have to sort it, it's significantly cheaper. I can't give you prices on that. We're not, AV suppliers, but I would certainly investigate it with your AV suppliers. And if you don't have video content, is also ask how much the just audio only is, because It's the audio which unlocks the spoken word into words onto a page. So the first step is to get it recorded. In my view, it would be everything. Anywhere where people have microphone goes over an AV system, try and record it, because who knows the gold that you may uncover. Once it's recorded, we have amazing technology nowadays in which it can be transcribed. And once you have it transcribed, you then have the raw material to turn it into a high quality article, in which it can be a summary, can be all sorts of formats, but it can be really high value for someone to read. It has more value if against that article we've actually identified a keyword and which has some search volume, and then the article is optimized for that keyword. Then it's more likely to do better in search. It certainly can do well otherwise, but it's a bit more likely to if it's been optimized too, and then published. So when that article is published, to be honest, any time really, I mean, so long as something is blatantly not out of date or giving incorrect information, I would say if you have anything, start to consider whether you can actually get it onto your website. Even if it's evergreen content from 2 years ago, let's say you're a building conference and you're talking about health and safety. Whilst there might be specific elements which are relevant for today with legislation that's coming out today, there will be general, if it's the general mindset of health and safety, for example, that will certainly, I'm sure there'll be an awful lot of relevant stuff from 2 years ago that would still be applicable today, and there'll be many other subjects. So I guess my first question to you guys and for you to have a think about is, from last year's events and previous years, do you have any recordings, whether it's audio or video, and which you could get transcribed and turn into articles to put on the website? Because especially if they're allied to an influential person within your industry, that could be tremendously valuable, and also very good value content compared with if you were to get that speaker to actually go and write a blog post to put on your website. I'm sure that wouldn't be quite as reasonable. I can't really also underplay the importance of the people who are giving the presentations and will ally their credibility to the article in which you're providing. These are people who, that's often why people come to an event, is the actual people that are there. Sometimes even less so what they're actually talking about. It's to see the actual person themselves and just learn from them in whatever they're going to be talking about. So the expert credibility and leveraging that is so important. And it's these articles which is a really fantastic way in which enables you to do that. Like I say, evergreen value. There may be some things which are highly topical and time sensitive, but what about other articles and other talks and seminars you've had, which could be just as relevant today as they were when they were given 2, 3, 4 years ago? Now, the amazing thing is, so what we have here is potentially a really high quality article in which you have the name against it of an industry leader, someone who wasn't even looking for your event, wasn't even thinking about an event, has now found their way onto your website. They read through what's a really interesting and informative article by someone who's very influential. So obviously this is now going to be a great way in which you can potentially get people to then register interest, sign up to a newsletter, actually come along to your event. I speak to a lot of marketers who have real problem getting people to sign up to the newsletter. And if you think about it, why would people want to sign up to the newsletter? I think, in our day-to-day lives, we get an awful lot of emails, etc., from all sorts of places. And do we really want more marketing emails, or that's what we're concerned we're going to get? But if we find our way onto your website, or we navigate to one of these pages in which offers really high value and really fantastic content, and signing up to the newsletter is a way of getting more of this, and especially stuff which is a lot more timely, this is something that many people actually will want to sign up for, because it's really giving them some value and it really helps your event. So in terms of not just conversions for registrations or for pre-registration, even for newsletter sign-ups, this can really boost conversions. So how does transcribing a talk, getting it down onto an article and publishing it onto your website, how does it help? How does it give you this 365 traffic and conversions? Well, more and more articles, each one of these are going to be optimized. They're going to be optimized for keywords. They're going to be found in Google. That's going to drive more people to your site. People who are just interested in particular topics that your experts are talking about. So immediately this starts putting the net wider in terms of people coming to your site. Many of these pages actually, and this is what we recommend when you do articles like this, what we do is we organize them around the topics that we've identified. Remember previously we spoke about the different topics. So we arrange the articles in relation to the topics we've already identified. They'll link back to the topic pages, and they'll improve actually the SEO optimization of these topic pages. Any page that has lots of links to it, it helps that perform too. So by having all of these articles added and starting to link to those pages, it will help your topic pages work too. And the net result of all of this is basically more and more organic traffic. And then if you imagine over time, this isn't just this year, this is next year, this is the year after. It's not just having an event website anymore. You now have a content site. You have a site which has more and more content on there which people want to read, they're interested in. And the net that you have for drawing people gets wider and wider. Remember what I said earlier also about PPC? Now Google has so much more information about your audience and all the different subjects in which they're interested in and all the topics in which they come and visit your site on. And this will really help your PPC campaigns. So that shouldn't be underestimated either. So you get more traffic, your website authority goes up, especially with more and more pages. You have more opportunity for people to sign up to newsletters because they're engaged in the content and can see the speakers that you have. Then there's a lot more reasons to actually sign up and to convert. Now, another fantastic benefit of all of this is how it can really help your other campaigns. So often we have people say, well, you know, what content have we got to share on the website when it comes to social, or what should we put into emails? Well, if you imagine all of the different topics now and all of the articles that we have from the different speakers, we have so much stuff which could be shared, whether it's on social media and whether it's in email newsletters. And this literally now can be year round, in which you're not just marketing sort of updates in which sometimes there aren't any updates. We're now actively sharing really useful and interesting information. So the way that this can support your social and email really shouldn't be underestimated. In potentially you can now be in touch with your potential audience, have so much more activity going on social, and really start driving engagements over there, and really start building that side. So this is a fantastic side benefit to this. So just to give an example how this could work, so we have a keynote session of AI in healthcare, and this could very much be transformed into a really great article. So again, this would be an article on your website. It could be targeting AI healthcare innovations, for example, as a keyword. If it has a number of searches a month, or AI trends in medicine, people could be typing that in. So again, this will attract people who are interested in those topics and bring them to that article on your website. On that article, we'd make sure we have the right kind of calls to action, whether it be sign up to a newsletter, register now, whatever it might be. You know, attend a webinar. I don't know if you have webinars. It may be a way of starting to launch webinars. If you're starting to get more traffic, potentially you can launch webinars. Now, another way of engaging your audience. So this is just one example of. Now, if you imagine this times, I mean, how many sessions do you have per year? How many things would you get recorded? I have some clients in which this could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 200 in a year. So it could even be more. So if you imagine that from each event, and then drip thread throughout the whole year, this is a lot of content and really high value which is going onto the website, causing more organic traffic and more engagement. We've started to provide the service of turning recordings into published articles. We call it AV to article. And so far, I just thought I'd go through some of the questions in which people have asked me about this. If you have any other questions, please fire them into the chat. But the questions I've been asked are, so what sessions should be prioritized for these articles? You know, which ones should we do first? I mean, especially if you have a lot of them, it can be a difficult question to answer. Well, remember before I said about the topics we've identified. So, you know, they could be one. You could center them around your key topics in which you're looking to promote. Sometimes it might be around the people. If you have a particular keynote who's very well known, maybe you concentrate on theirs. But you know, the other way, if it's not those topic, if it's not keynote, the other one would be a particular. If you do some keyword research around the sessions that are being done, it could be ones that are particularly either timely or popular at the moment, or just have a lot of search. So those are kind of things I'd look at when looking to which articles to prioritize. And in terms of where they're published, they should be published on your website. On the ASP website, we'd set up a new library for all of these sessions. Obviously, you can call them whatever you like. Past years conference sessions, past years summary, you know, summary articles, whatever you want to call them. We publish them on your site. They look like blog posts in just in the same way in which we have a news section or a blog section, and we publish them as a library on the website. And then, being it's a library, we can then pull that in as a widget onto any page you like. So let's say, for example, we have our machine learning topic page, and we have a number of articles in which we've transcribed and published about machine learning. We can then put a widget on your machine learning page, tag these all up as machine learning, and automatically pull in the machine learning articles. So, and that can be done for any other topic page and any other relevant articles too. Can the content be published during the event? So people often think, well, this is kind of, we do it afterwards. Well, in actual fact, we can really now, because this can be done relatively quickly, almost next day sometimes. If we get the stuff quick enough, we can get it turned around and back to you. So a session can actually be published live on your website, maybe the next day, which is obviously fantastic for maintaining the buzz of the event, getting that out on social, getting that out on email. So absolutely, the content can be published during the event, and in many ways you could argue that's the ideal time to do it. But on the flip side, I would certainly not say that if you have a whole raft of content that's 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, where there's really high quality stuff in there, don't stop doing that. But 100%, you can publish content during the event, and we could certainly help you do that if you wanted to. Does this content benefit SEO? 100%. Targets loads more keywords, gives your website lots more authority because you're adding great value content on a regular basis. The website's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The net in which you're casting is getting broader. You're getting more authority. You're getting more trust. And at the same time, like I mentioned, it'll also help your PPC campaigns. What if I'm concerned about offering free content online? So we do get this question quite a lot, actually, where people, people pay a lot of money to come to the event, and then you're thinking, well, am I giving it away free afterwards? Well, it does depend, I think, on what you're giving away. If it's a relatively brief summary of the talk, I mean, the reality is you're never going to be able to substitute actually going and seeing someone versus reading a 500, 700 word article on your website. So that's never going to replace seeing them in person. Often what I say to people is you can do something what's called interesting but incomplete. So for example, you could have a shortened version of the article, which is available now, and then behind some form of paywall, you could then have the full length article in which someone would have to pay to get access to. But I certainly wouldn't let it stop you. And to be honest, the way most publications, and we see this with national newspapers, you start off by giving free content, which really starts to drive the traffic to the website, starts really building up an audience. And then once you've got a bit of momentum going, that's when you start reducing the amount that you get for free, and to see the whole lot you have to pay, subscribe, or whatever the deal is that you come up with. So, but I certainly wouldn't have this as a blocker. We see people who discuss this for so long that nothing ends up happening, and there's no paywall option, and there's no free option either. So as I say, there's a couple of options there. I personally would start off with the free one first, get momentum going, get lots of organic traffic, and then over time start reining it back. Interesting but incomplete, and then maybe the rest of it behind a paywall. Bit wordy this slide, coming to the end, but what we're really talking about is how this is combined power of both organizing your website and your event into topics, and which makes it easy for people and for websites to understand the different sections in which you're targeting. And then the second phase is then boosting that further by transcribing the sessions and all of the content that you have at your event, and then publishing these as articles. So hopefully I've given you some ideas here as to how powerful this could be. I mean, we've certainly seen very large increases in organic traffic as a result of just some of the things in which I've been talking to you today. And the thing is, it's not just increases in organic traffic at the time of the event, we're talking all year round. And we've had feedback from customers saying, for example, that it's the first time after the event that they've had inquiries for next year, because we've actually got people still going to the website, which had never happened before. So the consistent traffic, and remember that consistent traffic is the ability also to increase the mailing list, increase the sign-ups, and can be so powerful for the sort of longevity of the event. Very much improves SEO performance doing this, which hopefully over time will enable you to rein back a little bit, or maybe some of other sort of paid media or marketing that you might be doing. But certainly if you build into this, sort of regular getting up onto the website, some of these articles from last year's events, the content we've spoken about, it doesn't necessarily have to be an enormous job. There is this perception that doing SEO on a website is a massive job, but I often say to people, it's doing a little often. So yes, there might be some help needed initially just to, organize the website into topics and get things going, get the foundations in place. But once they are going, it really is a little often. It's publishing this content, really building on these topics in which you've identified, so the website doesn't see these big peaks and troughs. And bear in mind, these are all things which should be of huge interest to your target market and to your visitors. Whether it be the articles, whether it be that they want to go to a machine learning event and they go straight to the page and they see the speakers in which are going to be talking and the exhibitors they want to go and speak to. This is all about engaging real people, which has a direct impact on conversions. If you're creating pages which people love, you will improve conversions. We all know how frustrating it is when you go onto a website, you can't find what you're looking for, and you just leave. That concludes the main element of the webinar. We will be making this available online, so if you missed some of it, or if you want to go back, please go and check it out in the Learning Hub on the ASP website. Oh, I have another question that's come through. To help visualize this strategy, can you recommend any case studies or websites that do this well? Well, we can certainly, when we send stuff out afterwards, I can share stuff, so that's fine. We can share some nice examples, etc. So yeah, if you found this interesting, this will be available on the website. We've got other webinars there too. I particularly recommend how to do the keyword research, as well as we've got another one on optimizing a page, as well as the which you can help you with your topic pages. So I'd certainly recommend you go over and check those out and have a look. If you feel that you need a bit of help with this, we do have a special offer. We do something called optimization time. So rather than defining a particular strategy, it's a kind of low cost way of getting some help. So we get £500 of optimization time for £250, and this would be great for, say, for example, you wanted some help doing some topic keyword research, or helping you identify your topics. Within that sort of budget, we could probably help you identify most of your topics in your primary and your sub ones. So there's that there if you like it. Also for the AV to article, if you have some recordings and you want to just check it out, see the kind of output that you can get from a recording and to a published blog post, drop me a line and we can give you a free sample. So all we need is an audio file, a video file, even a YouTube video. Send it over, we'll convert it into an optimized article, upload it to your website, and then you can see there what it actually looks like. So I think often if you can visualize something, as per the question, to be honest, if you can visualize something, it's easier to see the potential benefit that it has. So that's it. We have no more webinars this year. So thank you for everyone who's attended this and any of our other webinars in 2024. And we will be launching new ones in the new year, in 2025. Can't believe it, it's come round already. If anyone's got any particular topics in which they'd like covered, any questions that they have, any particular things they'd like me to look at in more detail, please send those over. We'll be very happy to potentially include those as one of our webinars for next year. But I hope you found that useful. Like I say, all this stuff will be sent out. If you have any supplementary questions, please feel free to send them over, and hope you'll have a fantastic Christmas, and speak to you soon.